Hey there. Welcome to the channel where you will find love, laughs, and DIYs. My name is Crafty Kathy, and I'm tickled pink that you came to spend your time with me today. Today, I have for you a dollar store fall video. If you find value and inspiration in this video, I would love for you to hit the like button, and hey, subscribe if you want to become a part of our family. We'd love to have you. I'm going to start off with these two glass jars that I got on clearance at the Dollar General. They're normally $4, but I only paid $2 a piece for them. And the very first thing that I'm going to do is use my Dixie Belle Slick Stick, and I gave it 2 coats. This is an excellent primer for glass. I mixed up red and yellow and got this mauve color. And this is what we're going to use today to paint these. So instead of painting both of them this color, I gave one of them this color. The other one I just did with a color called Home Decor Java, and it turned out to be a dark brown. I painted both of the lids the Java color. I also had to give the lids 2 coats, and I didn't show myself doing all the different color, but the color Java is by Faux and it's a brown color. I got this set of transfers off of Etsy, and they are by Redesign. And as you see, it's got a lot of pinks, mauves, and like a purpley color in it. It also has a cream color, and it is all fall and autumn inspired. I picked out a pretty floral pattern, and there was actually 2 of each. And I also picked out 2 words. One says autumn and one said pumpkin. And we're going to put these on the front. You do these just like any other transfer. It feels like a sticker. You take that backing sheet off and you lay it down where you desire to put it. And I found it easier to use my fingernail instead of the little tool to rub this on, just because it was so small, and then the area that I was putting it in was that little rounded area, so I didn't make any mistakes, that's how I put it on. And then right up above the little circle area is where I put the words. On the mauve color, I put the word autumn. And I'm just going to be honest, you know I usually use the IOD transfers, and these were much cheaper. They were only $11, but I would not recommend these at all. They cracked. They were terrible. The U actually came off, and I had to use my brown Arteza marker to put the U back on just to try to save it. And I did a good job at saving it, but I really don't recommend these. They just aren't my IOD quality. Here is the Java, and it actually came out better, the word pumpkin, but it still was cracked and looked kind of, it just wasn't what I like when I do my transfers. And so I'm going to put a little bit of jute cord on the back. I always start and glue it on the back. That way, if it looks funky, it's on the back part. You can't tell. I wrapped it around 3 times, and then I just glued it back. Cut the jute cord off, and then I always burn off the fuzzies. And don't be afraid to do this, guys. I've done this for years, and I hold it on there forever. And if it's going to burn down the house, I think I would have already done so. I've got these little brown leaves that I ordered off of Amazon. They're just little wooden brown leaves, and I painted 1 Java and 1 the mauve color. And look at these beautiful little wooden tags. These were actually cheaper for me to use in my booth. I got 100 of them off of Amazon for $10, and if I get 10 of those little white cardstock type tags from Staples, they're usually about $15, so go figure. And these are cuter. So anyways, I took those little wooden leaves, and I put the mauve one on top of the mauve, and then I put the brown one on top of the brown one. And I wrapped those little tags with the jute on the sides of the little containers. I love to put these little tags on things, and I think it gives it like a boutique touch. It just gives it that little something extra. And I like to use my little stamps that I have that has different scripture on it and just put something like that on there, because I think that when a person buys that and reads that, it just kind of gives them a little inspiration, and it's cute. These are the stamps that I got the other day off of Amazon. And I'm going to use this one that says, I will sing to the Lord forever because he's been good to me. I think that's sweet. And when somebody reads that, they're like, oh yeah, he is good to me. You know what I'm saying? They just read it and it's like a little affirmation for your day. And then the other one that I used, I put on there, it just simply said, God is love. And it had the scripture that it goes along with also. So let me know what you think about this one.
Staying at home, turn off the phone, I will listen to you. You lay in the sheets, you hold on to me like I'm already gone.
DIY number 2, we're going to make this faux apple pie, and I think this is cute as can be. You just need a few items to make this, and I tweaked it a little bit from the others that I've seen. I've got one of these beautiful little dishes that you get from the Dollar Tree. I've got a sanding sponge from the Dollar Tree, and then I have some cotton muslin that I got from the fabric department at Walmart. I cut my sanding sponge into what would be bite-sized pieces. You really need a regular sponge, like a big sponge from the automotive department at Dollar Tree, but that's all I had. And I used these 2 brown colors. It doesn't really matter what you use. I've got like a rust color almost and a lighter brown, because, when you cook apples, they get that brownish color. So just whatever color you want to make it the color that you perceive your apples to be when they're done. And I just mixed it up, and I'm simply just going to paint this on all the pieces of my sponge. Now we're going to take our muslin, and I stained this with coffee. You literally just leave it in coffee for about 30 minutes at least. I cut a 1-inch strip, and then you just rip it straight down. And I did 1 long piece. And then I cut about a 2-inch strip and ripped it down also. By now, the sanding sponge should be dry. We're going to take our little dish, and we're literally just going to glue these pieces down, and it's going to look like little pieces of apple down inside. You just glue it all the way till you get to like basically a flush edge at the top. Then you're going to take your 1-inch pieces that you have. You're going to lay 3 across vertical and then 3 across horizontal. And what you do is you flip one piece up, lay it down, and then do the other 2. It's probably easier to see what I'm doing than to explain. This will create a look the way that a pie looks. And then we're just going to glue the edges down on each one. And then we're simply just going to cut off the excess that's hanging over past where we glued it down. If you have any little strings that's sticking up, just cut them off. Now we're going to take the piece of muslin that is the 2-inch, and we're going to make the crust around the pie. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to glue a starting point down, And then we are going to make pleats. And the way that you do that is just simply by kind of making a little fold. And at each fold, you're going to put a piece of glue down, just a dot of glue, so that it will hold it. And it kind of makes it look like the edge around a pie. And you can see my fingers the way I'm doing it. It's easier to see than to explain. You just fold and glue all the way around. And then once you have the whole crust done around the edge, you're going to take and cut off any little strings that may be coming out from there. And you're also going to just kind of fluff up the edge to where it does look exactly like a pie. Now we're going to take a spray adhesive and we're going to use two different types of glitter. We're going to put a little bit of the spray on the top and then we're going to splash the glitter on the top. And that's going to create a look like it's got little sugar crystals on the top. Then we're going to take a little bit of cinnamon and we're going to sprinkle the cinnamon on the top. I prefer to put it on my hand and then sprinkle it so it doesn't glob up. Then you just take the excess off of the top. Then I'm just going to make sure that I got the edges fluffed up real good. And I'm going to put just one more coat of the sealer on it so that it will stay on there. And then I'm going to cut off any little fuzzy hairs that are sticking out. Next, I'm going to use this little stamp set that I got off of Amazon. And I'm just going to take a small piece of the 2-inch that I have. And I liked this maroon color. I thought it looked really cute. And we are going to spell out the words apple on this. Then I'm simply going to cut off the excess and I'm going to glue that on the front part of my little pie. Now this is just cute as a button. Let me know what you think about it.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned where I had sometimes played chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score. So I dream on to someday find that vintage love. I kept on looking.
If you're liking this content so far, hit that like button because it really helps me out on the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what in the world are you waiting for? You know I want you here in my family. All you got to do is hit that little red subscribe button, and there's a bell beside it, and when you click that bell, YouTube's going to let you know every time I upload a video. Now, this one is adorable. I've got 3 of these pumpkins that come from the Dollar Tree, and then I have a couple of different types of cardstock that I got from Hobby Lobby. The first thing that I'm going to do is take off these little pieces that's at the top and then all of the little tags off there. And we're going to put the cardstock in the middle of the raised parts of this pumpkin. So what I do is I lay the cardstock over it and I push down with my fingers to get the pattern cut out. Then you just flip your cardstock over and you have a perfect pattern to show you where to cut out at. And I'm just going to cut out all my little 3 pieces of each pumpkin. I did 2 pumpkins that have the truck on them, and one is a black and white buffalo check pattern. And so I just lay these back out and make sure that everything's going to be correct. Then I take this orange color that I created myself with red and yellow, and the parts that's not going to be raised, I painted all of those orange. Once I had it all painted, I am just going to take a glue stick and I'm going to glue all the pieces down where they go on each one. I like to use my brayer once I have these down on there just to make sure that they're good and stuck on there. I forgot to fill in those little holes, so I'm going to use this wood filler, and I'm going to just put that in there. But then in the end, it really didn't matter because I'm going to put a bow right over it. But oh well, we got to make sure we do it right anyways. I have this old vintage shutter that I'm going to take outside, and I'm going to spray paint it black with my Rust-Oleum 2x matte black, and it turned out really cute. On the back of it, I'm going to put a piece of wood so it doesn't fold up on me, and then I'm going to use my little brad nailer to pop the nails in there so it'll be simple and easy to put on there. By now, my little wood filler was dry, and so I'm just going to sand it down and then repaint that little part right there orange just to cover that up. I'm going to make a super easy bow. I take a piece of my ribbon and I'm going to glue the ends together to make a circle. And I'm going to do this 2 times and then basically just squish it together in the middle, and it's going to make what looks like a bow tie. Then I take my jute twine and I'm going to tie that together in the middle. Then I take another piece of ribbon, and that's going to be my tails, and I'm going to just glue it down onto my little pumpkin. And then I'm going to glue my bow on the top, and I'm going to dovetail the ends. Then I'm going to take my buttons, and I put a large orange one and a small black one on one. And then I did the bows exactly the same on all 3, but I did different colors of my little buttons. Then I'm simply going to take my pumpkins and I'm going to glue them on my shutter. I liked it going up and down instead of sideways. I thought that looked so much prettier. I then took my Spanish moss that I got from Florida from a tree, and I'm going to put down a little bit of glue underneath each pumpkin, and I'm going to place the little Spanish moss underneath each pumpkin. Now I have some of these little pumpkin stems that I got from Walmart, and they had really pretty leaves on them. And so I'm going to put the leaves, they come in 2s, by the way, and I'm going to put the leaves on one side and a sunflower that I got from these picks at Walmart on the opposite side. And then, so I ended up doing 3 sunflowers and 2 of the pieces of the leaves. And I think this turned out just absolutely adorable. Let me know what you think about this one. This won't last long in my booth.
I look out across the water. I smell the song. I feel the breeze. But in my heart, I hear the calling of my old home, Tennessee.
This last one is super quick and easy. This is one that I did last year, and it's a little picture hanger. Now I'm going to use this same cardstock to push down around the shape of this pumpkin, and it holds a little picture. I'm going to cut out the shape. I'm going to use my glue stick again to place this right down over the picture that I had on the front. I find the glue stick is much easier when you're using cardstock because there's no wrinkles like Mod Podge. I used my brayer, and then I just painted the top a brownish color. It's the same brown that I mixed up for those apples a while ago when we did the faux apple pie. Then I take the lamb's ear that comes from Walmart, and I'm going to make these be the little leaves for the pumpkin on the top. And then I simply just glued a little bit of the Spanish moss on the top, and that's all I did, and popped a picture in this. And I think that this is probably going to sell really quick.
I ain't got no money the first week of the month. Right up into orbit, my chicks the only bound. My landlord thinks a problem of rent.
If y'all got this wood round, and I also have one of their Farm Fresh calendars that is a 2022 calendar. It has this beautiful picture for November that has the little black truck and it says thankful with it. Now, since this calendar is so thin and it wrinkles up so easy, the best way to get any of it to stick is to be using a glue stick. I used my Elmer's glue stick and I put a good amount on there. And by the way, I just cut off that hanger, that little jute hanger, so I could get my picture on better. And I also used a little brayer that I have to kind of push out any wrinkles and just make sure that it sticks real good. And then I used my scissors to poke holes back in there because I'm still going to hang it up and I'll have to put another piece of jute on there. Then I just used my sanding sponge to sand it away from myself to get any of that excess off there. I love that Dollar Tree came out with these little wooden words, Harvest DIY words, and I picked the one that says Hello Fall. But your old girl here was trying to mix up two colors to make orange, so I did red and yellow. I don't know what I was thinking this day. Now, I ended up getting a maroonish kind of color, almost like a really pretty mauve-y color. And the reason why I'm showing that is because I'm going to use that later, and I wanted to show you how I come to that color. Now, moving on from my boo-boo, I just painted this Hello Fall with some Arteza colors that I had. I forgot that I had orange. I don't know what I was thinking. So I took one of those ropes outside, that nautical rope that you get from the Dollar Tree, and it's the white one, and I just kind of halfway spray painted it orange, I guess you could say. I brought it back in because we're only going to need one side showing, and I kind of went around the perimeter with this, and I just used my hot glue gun to get it to stick. And I took a little bit of my Dixie Belle Voodoo stain. It's basically the same thing as antiquing wax, and I just put a little bit on a brush and kind of went over everything to make it kind of vintagey. You know, that's my thing. And here's how I did the ribbon. It's that green ribbon from Dollar Tree. And all I did was just lap it over one way and then go another way. One way and then the opposite way. And I ended up doing that where I had 3 loops on each side. Then I kind of pinch it in the middle and just squish it all together, and that makes like a little bow tie. And then I took a piece of jute twine and tied it really tightly. And then once I had it good and secured, then I kind of fluffed it out a little bit. Now when I make a bow like this, I do the tail separate. So I just fold a piece like in half, and then I put a little glue down and I glue it down, and that's the tails. And then I put the top of the bow right over the top of it. Now, if you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you know that I love to put buttons in the middle of my bows. I always pick a larger button to go in the back and then a smaller button to go right on top of that one. And then I just dovetailed the ends. Then I took some of that fake hay. It's actually Easter grass that was kind of a yellowy color. And then I just tied some jute around it and stuck it down in behind. And then I took some of that Spanish moss and glued it to the top. And then I also added a little pumpkin to the top of that. Let me know what you think about this one. The next one is some Dollar Tree books, but you can also get these at a thrift store. And I'm going to use this Arteza color called Indian Summer. I think it's a beautiful color. I ended up doing 4 books. This Indian Summer, it's an acrylic paint, which I'm used to using a chalk paint, and it did not cover well. So I went back over everything with some Waverly plaster just to kind of give it a base coat. And most of these books that I have do have a darker color on them. So I just went ahead and took all 4 books and just gave them that first coat of the plaster. That way I could have a base coat down on everything before I begin. But as you see, it went on much better after I put down that base coat. After I got all of my books painted with different shades of orange, I take about 4 inches of a ribbon. I open the inside of the book and I glue it down, and then I glue the back page down, and then I glue those pages. That way my book is totally sealed. It's not going to open up, and it just makes it easier that way so it won't open. My friend Lori over at Milton's Daughter sent me these beautiful molds, and it's called Frames 2. It's an IOD mold, and I absolutely love this one. There's also a Frames 1, but this is Frames 2. I take my cornstarch and I just give a light dusting all inside of the mold. That way it's not going to stick whenever I use my clay. And then I'm also using another mold, and this one is called the Trimmings mold. This one is Trimmings 2. There's a Trimmings 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you guys need any kind of IOD supplies, my friend Lori over at Milton's Daughter gives us 10% off here at Crafty Cathy. You just have to use the code CraftyCathy10, and I'll leave that down below. Now, I'm taking my air dry clay, and the reason why I love the IOD mold so much is because it has this little lip on it where all you have to do is push against that lip, and it just does it perfectly. It makes like there's no hangover, if that makes any sense. Okay, and so then I use the back of my hand too to make sure that it's the kind of the same size all the way across, and look how easy this comes out. In my Trimmings 2 mold, I ended up using that top one and then that bottom one. I didn't want many, but I just needed a few so that I could put it on the spines of the books in case I wanted it. And then I had to show you again just how easy this slides right out. She sent me some of the IOD air dry clay, and so I'm going to try it. And this is actually the first time I've tried this. I usually use that DOS brand that I get from Amazon, and I get like a 2-pound bag. I want to say this is maybe a half a pound right here. So I realized right away the ease of how, like this was very fluid. In other words, it was very easy to use. It was so like fluid. There's no other way I could describe. I didn't have to fight with it. I didn't have to just keep pushing it and pushing it. It was just very easy. It was almost felt like a marshmallow fluff putting that down on this mold. And so I did both of these molds, the larger one here and then the smaller one. And once again, look at the ease of how this comes out. And if for any reason you have trouble getting yours out this easy, you stick it back in there and then put it in your freezer for 15 minutes, and it kind of freezes it just enough to where it will come out very easily. So I did the second mold there. And of course, if I'm going to have clay that feels like marshmallow fluff, it came out just as easy. I kind of bend these backward and it just slides right out. On the first book, I'm going to do it sideways. It's going to be like a fat pumpkin, you know. And so I open it up just enough to where it's going to stand up on its own. I'm going to put this trimmings mold on the spine of the book, and then I use a little bit of my Type Bond glue. It's the best glue that you can use. It's a wood glue, but it's the best thing, I think, for these molds. It makes them stick, and within 24 hours or overnight, they're stuck on there. They're not going anywhere. And you just lightly press it down, and it molds itself to the shape of the book. I had a little piece of what was actually a fence, little like wooden fence that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I cut it off and just made a little stem for my pumpkin and kind of pushed it down into that clay, and there's my stem. Then once my little stem was on, I proceeded to color that mold the exact same color that I did the book. Then I'm going to take my fall IOD stamps, and they're called Fruitful Harvest. And I absolutely love these because it has a huge pumpkin in it and a small pumpkin. Well, I'm going to use that big pumpkin. I just take my black archival stamp and I make sure that I get it real good and stamped on there. I'm not going to do the stem because we already have the stem, so I just need the body of the pumpkin. You lay it down and you hold it steady with one hand and use either a brayer or your other hand to kind of push to where it's going to be good and stamped on there. And I always know when I'm using IOD that it comes out perfect every time. For the leaves on this pumpkin, I'm just going to use some leaves that came from one of my Dollar Tree florals, and I actually pulled it off. It's already like attached to each other. I put a little glue on it and put it back behind that stem, and then I know I'm going to get burnt, so I use my little tool that'll help me not to get burnt. And I think these leaves really look cute with this book. And I wanted a thin ribbon, so I'm using this one from Dollar Tree with the little hoot owls on it. I make one of the little figure 8 bows, you know, the little cause bows, and then just pinch it in the middle, put some jute twine on it, and I'm going to stick it kind of catty-cornered on there. And I always dovetail my ends. And it wouldn't be Crafty Cathy style if I didn't put a button in the middle of it. We got to make this a little vintagey, so I found a little button that looked perfect with my small bow and stuck it right in the middle. So that the video doesn't drag on very long, I'm just going to tell you that I used that Indian yellow orangey color and mixed it in with a little bit of brown, which was called Mars Brown, to get just a darker shade of an orange. And so I had several different colors of orange on my pumpkins. And I used my thicker piece of ribbon to glue the book together just like I did on the first one. We're going to use the IOD stamps in my set that's the crockery stamps. I absolutely love these. I use these so much. So I just stamped it up real good, or got my ink on it and put it right down in the center. And this time I hold it with one hand and push it with the other, and it comes out perfect every time. And then I use that black ink to go around the book to just create a little shading and texture. I grabbed a twig from the yard and I'm just going to put it down on the top, and that's going to be my little stem. And I take some of those little curly cues that you get at the Dollar Tree, or they're not curly cues, I'm sorry. They are a pitberry, I believe they're called, and they're orange and brown, and I'm making them to be curly cues, and so I wrap them around anything that I can find, a paintbrush, a pen, just anything I can find, and we're going to stick these right behind my little twig. Then I just added a little Spanish moss to that one, and that was it. So on the next book, I'm putting it together the way that I do with my fat piece of ribbon so that the book can still stand up on its own but be closed. And we're going to use this mold that I made with the frames mold. And I think this is gorgeous. So I glue it down with my Top Bond glue. And it's going to take overnight for it to totally be stuck on there and ready. But it can be painted and placed on there now, which it is better to place it on there while it's still pliable before it gets hard and it won't form to anything. I've got this beautiful rice paper that my friend Teresa sent me, and I'm going to use this one with the sunflowers because that is very appropriate for fall. And I don't like any straight edges when I'm decoupaging, so I never use the scissors. And rice paper is so much thicker that you don't have to worry so much about it ripping. You can actually just rip it exactly where you want to without worrying about it just ripping right up the middle. So I just put a thin layer of Mod Podge, and then I put my picture down. And that's another reason why I like dealing with this type of paper, because you don't have to worry about the saran wrap. It doesn't have wrinkles. You just use your fingers to kind of straighten it up. and it won't stick to your fingers the way that regular old, napkins do. Then I go around this frame with that same orange color that I painted this book. And I want to show you guys this cute little table saw that I got. Now this is to cut my sticks so that I don't have to sit there and struggle with them. All you do is turn it on and zip, and it just bop right down. If y'all want one of these, I'm going to put it down in the description box below so you know where to get them at Amazon. They're only like 60 bucks and they cut your dowels and anything. So anyways, I made my little stem and I popped it right on the top right there, and then I'm going to use some of these eucalyptus leaves that come from Walmart. Now they are perfect to make the pumpkin leaves. They're just a beautiful color and they just work. And then I added some of that Spanish moss that I pulled down out of the tree when we went to Florida on vacation, because like I said, it's free and I think it actually looks better and it's perfect. So I just popped it right down on there and used my little tool so I wouldn't get burned. I stuck my little leaves on there, and then I made a little figure 8 caused bow from the white crocheted looking ribbon from Dollar Tree that I love. Then I had this paint that was sent to me. It's called Golden Treasures, and it is in a gold color. And I kind of like the way it looks when people highlight stuff with the gold. So I went all the way around this frame with that gold color. And then I just kind of splashed little pieces here and there on the book to give that orange color a shimmer. Now on my very last book, I wanted it to be more rustic and I guess, I don't know, a little simpler. So I used that smaller pumpkin that's in my IOD stamp set, and I put it kind of right in the very center of my book, hold it with one hand and press it with the other. And all of the IOD stamps that you get come with a mask. And a mask is where you lay, it's just a little film that's in the exact shape of the stamp. You lay it down on top of your stamp, and that way, if you stamp something over it, it's going to give it the illusion that it's behind it. So when I did this, I did a leaf right over the top of it, and it looked as though that leaf was behind the pumpkin. And then down at the bottom under that pumpkin, I used 2 stamps that had a leaf with a curly Q on the end of the stick that they were attached to. And I'm going to use another one of these little wooden sayings, and it says Farm Fresh. And here's a little tip if you may not know about, but I like to use my ink and just braze over the front of that because it gives it a distressed look. Then I went all the way around my book again with that black ink to shade it in and give it some texture. I cut another little twig and I stuck it up in the top, and this time I'm going to use some leaves that came off of one of my higher end type of decor, or my flowers, and I think that it worked out really pretty. And I put some of the Spanish moss, and I want to show you, look at this that I got off of Amazon. It was 6 rolls of ribbon, and it's 2.5 inches thick, and it's the most beautiful ribbon. I think it was only about $16, maybe $15. It comes out to about $3 per roll, and that's about what you pay in the store. And I think this is beautiful. It's wired ribbon. And to make my bow, I just put it in a circle, and then I'm just going to squeeze it down in the middle, and that's going to give me a little bow tie ribbon. Then I grab another piece of ribbon, I dovetail the ends, and then I'm going to squeeze it in the middle, and that's going to be my little tails. Then I simply just glue that on my book, and then I fluff out my ribbon a little bit after I get the tails and the top of the ribbon on. And it just wouldn't be me if I didn't do my double button method and stick that in the middle. And I think these books are beautiful, and I sell them for $15 a piece in my booth.
Yesterday I lost the battle, trying at all costs to keep you, baby.
Let me know which one is your favorite.
Now I hurt so bad. All I feel is sad that I lost you, baby. Oh, I lost you, baby. I said goodbye with tears inside, calling out your name as you shut the door behind you. And now I wonder why won't
The next one is this bucket that you can get pretty much all season or all the time now at Dollar Tree. We're going to use this other mold that I made, and I put the Type Bond glue all over the back. And this is what I meant by it's good to do it while it's still wet because you can mold it. So I'm going to use this other piece of rice paper, and it's a beautiful Victorian scene, and it's a lady with her man, and I'm just going to kind of, tear off the piece that will fit right in the middle there. I used my Mod Podge to put just a little bit down in the middle, and you don't need a lot of Mod Podge when you're doing this rice paper. It's very, very simple. And then I just kind of used my hands to position it exactly where I wanted it and sealed the edges up. I'm going to use that mauve color that I was telling y'all about. To me, this is a beautiful fall color. I just didn't want it for what I had actually tried to mix it up for. So I went all the way around my little canister here, and I painted it that color, and I also painted the mold itself that color. And I think it came out beautiful, and it matches the romantic touch that the picture gives. I got some of my Debbie's DIY white wax and black matte wax, and I mixed them together to get a light gray color. I proceeded to dry brush this all over my mold because this is going to lay in those deep curvatures, and it's going to be beautiful. Then you take a lint-free rag and you just wipe off the excess. This can had a ton of fuzzies on the top, and so I just used my lighter and went around. I'm going to cut up some of these dahlias from the Dollar Tree. Then I have these roses that I got from Ling's Moment off of Amazon. I have this hop bush that came from the Dollar Tree, and those are probably my favorites this year out of all of their florals. And I also had some mums, and the mums, I'm pretty sure that is a Walmart sticker. Then I cut up my eucalyptus that I got off of Amazon, and guys, I can't brag about this enough. I used to like the ones from Walmart. This is even way better, and it's in my Amazon store if y'all want some. So I always start out with my eucalyptus leaves because you need some kind of filler. I put 2 in the back and 2 in the front. And if you don't know, the way I do my florals is if something goes on one side, I put it on the exact opposite side at the same spot. So in other words, if I put something in the back on the right, it goes in the back on the left, and it just looks good and it's more cohesive. Now I do have that one flower there in the front that doesn't have a match. It's an expensive flower. It's a nice flower, and I thought it went beautiful with the colors in this, so I just added it in. But as you see, to make it easier, what I add to one side, I add to the other. I had this gourd, a little brown gourd that who knows where it came from, but I stuck it on a little dowel rod and put it in there. Then I'm going to take a pine cone, and I just grabbed any tool that I could to try to make a hole big enough in the bottom of that where I could shove one of these flower stems in it, so that way I can set it up there also in that floral foam, and it's going to be beautiful. So I finally made the hole big enough, and I just put a flower stem in it, and I put it on the right side because I had put that gourd on the left side. I took my Spanish moss, and I put a lot of it in the back and kind of in the back of the little cup there. And I also try to push it with my fingers kind of in the middle of this arrangement. That way it covers up any bare spots. And I do the exact same in the front. And I finished it off with one of those dark pip berries that came from the Dollar Tree. Let me know if you like this one.
A little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned, wear a hat, sometimes play chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling. But all complexions that I adore, so hard to find, these seem impossible to score.
The last one is super simple and easy. I got this little tag, I believe at Dollar General or Dollar Tree, and it says enjoy the small things. It's a pretty green color. And I got this book of like cardstock stuff, pictures, stickers. I got that off of Amazon last year. It's a fall pack, and I have that linked in my store if you want one. They're absolutely awesome. So I picked a picture of a scarecrow, and he had this same color background behind him that's on that little house tag. So I didn't even have to paint it. I just put that down with my glue stick. I'm going to use one of these little wood pieces that says Welcome Fall. And I'm going to take my little ink pad that's like a rusty brown color. I think it's called rustic brown or rustic fall. And I'm just going to glide it over the words Welcome Fall, and it's going to look like a distressed orange color. I use my hot glue gun to put that down toward the bottom of this. And then I'm going to take my buttons, and I'm going to put the button right over the top of the scarecrow. And I did my usual one larger button with a smaller button on top. I took some jute twine and wrapped it around my hand 10 times. I don't know why I said 4, but 10 times. And then I cut the jute off. I squinch it in the middle, just push it all down in the middle, and I tie that with a piece of jute. Then I cut all the loops, and it almost makes like a crazy messy bow. And then I cut them down and give them a little bit of a haircut, and I'm going to glue that on the top of where the button is. Then I burn off all my fuzzies. And I go back in to look for one button to stick in the middle of my bow. And wouldn't you know, I had a little sunflower button. And it was sent to me by Wanda, one of my very, very loyal subscribers. And thank you, Miss Wanda. I stuck it right in the center, and that's all I had to do to this one. Hey, if you stuck with me through this whole video, I just want to say thank you so much for coming and spending your time with me today.